Live from the Talking Joe studios,
it's Talking Joe with Chief and Chris. So, as the intro there may have led you down a different path, so to speak, Ben is not actually here. This is part of a bombshell. I've had a very interesting week. On Monday, Ben messaged me, unfortunately, saying that he wanted to part company with the show. A few months ago, he kind of expressed some doubts about the listenership we had in terms of numbers. We were only getting kind of 30, 40 listeners per week, and the amount of effort he was putting in to edit and record, and he's got a very busy lifestyle. He was kind of like, I don't know if it's worth it. But he came around and he was like, no, cool, let's just do a 50 block, do the Marvel run, get it in a time, nice archive time capsule, that'd be cool. But unfortunately, I think, whether something else has happened or not, but he kind of felt that, again, now was a time where he can't really dedicate. He's going away out of the country for a number of weeks as well, and he didn't really want to take his laptop and mic with him, so that's understandable. I kind of tried to twist his arm to come on this week to at least give a bit of closure, do a nice send-off. He was desperate to read and review this Civil War storyline. He was really wanting to get into it and capture, or just talk about the end of Game of Thrones, but wasn't to be. So I got on the bat phone, called up friend of the show, good buddy, Diagnostik80, aka Chris. I need to do another podcast, McLeod. And he answered the phone, and he is here with us now. So welcome, Chris.
Hi. I think you picked up the Pratt phone, not the bat phone in that case. Again, thanks for having me on. It's a real shame that Ben's had to kind of jump off, and I feel his pain. I really do. I mean, you guys are getting 30 to 40 more hits than we are on the full force. So
I doubt that. So that kind of you've done a segue for us. So all the people that are listening, I'm sure you are aware of Chris. He does the Full Force podcast, as he mentioned, probably my favourite G.I. Joe Action Force related podcast.
Oh,
and
you're only saying that.
Amongst other things as well. You're a man of many talents and many pods. And so thank you for coming on. And those that aren't aware of you, shame on you. Go and check out Full Force. So just give us your creds. Give us your credentials about why you should be on here talking about G.I. Joe and Action Force.
Because I've been collecting it since I was 2, maybe. I don't know.
Good enough.
And now I'm like much older than that, and I'm still collecting it. So yeah, I've been doing the Full Force now for 6 years. We started just doing like a semi-regular kind of monthly long form audio podcast, and that kind of has grown into this ridiculous thing where we do news burst and comic burst, Disorder of Battle, FSS card art battles and figure battles and all sorts of different things. So yeah, now it's kind of more of I joked with Michael Mercy, who had me on one of his shows recently. I just keep getting on everyone's shows. That's what that's my aim. That it's like basically an empire. He called it a universe. He called it the FFU, which I think is hilarious. Right. So we'll be calling it the FFU from now on.
Okay, we're part of it now. It's a multi-threaded storyline.
I know, I'm just like absorbing all of these podcasts.
Cool. Have you been up to anything interesting this week?
This week has just been ridiculously busy. I just got back from Boston. I was filming for Boss Fight Studio, and that will become more apparent later this week, going into next week. So there's going to be like I've been doing basically a project with them, and that's going to be ongoing from this point on. So I had to go out to Boston, and then obviously I was in the kind of Pawtucket, Rhode Island, Providence, all that kind of area. Cool. I was kind of around there, and doing lots of filming. It was a lot of fun, and great to see the Boss Fight guys again.
Excellent.
Other than that, it's just been like editing, working constantly, which is it's good. It's good to be busy, but and now I thought, well, why not take on Talking Joes as well?
I was going to say, because I ain't doing no editing, so you're doing all that shebang. Been a busy week for the Chief household. Awesome. We had a week off. The family went to Centre Parks in Woburn in Bedfordshire, UK.
I love Centre Parks.
We were going with another family, actually, friends of ours who also have a daughter just a little bit younger than ours. Our daughter's 3, their daughter's 2.5. And we got the train up from East Croydon. It's a straight train Monday morning. First calamity of the day.
Oh, no.
Chief drops his phone in the Uber taxi driver's car.
Oh, no way.
Fact. So I realised when I got out, as I went to collect my prepaid tickets and tried to look up on my phone the reference number and realised the phone wasn't in my pocket. So fortunately, I got a work phone, so I quickly jumped on the internet to look up the reference number. We had about 5 minutes to catch the train.
Oh, my
so
goodness.
it was either miss the train, and I think our tickets were only valid for that train, or stay there and contact the driver and try and get it back. So I thought, to it, we're going on holiday. We got the tickets, got on the train. I phoned him from the train, managed to get through to him, and he did, in fact, admit to finding it in the well of the passenger seat.
Brilliant.
Which was good to start with. So then I said, cool, I'm away now, but I'll be back at the end of the week. Can I get it from you? There was no reply. So, okay, fine. A couple of days later, I messaged again saying, I actually did get a reply from him saying, yes, fine, I can meet you when you come back from holiday.
Oh,
Perfect.
Thank goodness.
So then when we came back, I messaged him on the way back on Friday and said, look, I'll give you 20 quid if you can, if I can meet you somewhere, because he might have not even have been living around that area. He might have been living in North London or something and was doing a trip. So I knew I might have to meet him. But he actually said, no, he came round to my house that evening and actually dropped it to my house.
Oh, thank goodness.
So gave him 20 quid. Top man. So that was the first calamity. The second calamity of the week was Centre Park swimming pool. Very nice. So I like to.
I love the swimming pool.
I like to get the efficiency level up. So I get changed into swimming costume first.
Yeah.
So that and wear swimming shorts and a t-shirt. So when I get there, t-shirt off in the pool.
Boom.
So
no messing
very good.
About.
Very not good if you forget to bring other dry clothes or a towel. Okay, so that's the second thing. Third thing was I thought we'll take some food. Both families took some food, and I thought I'll cook a lasagna. I'll cook a really nice lasagna, veggie lasagna. So I thought I'll cook one, but because my kid doesn't particularly like onions or mushrooms, what I do is I blend them down to a fine dust in the food processor, and so they're in there, but she doesn't know they're in there. Hidden veg.
Nice.
So I thought they probably ain't got a food processor, so I'll do all that at home before I go. Blended it all down, put it in the freezer. Of course, I forgot to take it out of the freezer.
Oh, my goodness
when we got there.
me.
So I actually ended up buying mushrooms and onion from the supermarket there and had to finally dice them. It took me about half an hour to finally dice all this stuff. But anyway, it came out well and we ate it. Then there was a couple of other calamities, but then the big one...
Hang on, there's more?
Yeah, this is the worst one, and it's gonna go a bit somber now.
Oh.
I don't want to let you think it's too bad, but it was pretty bad. So anyway, we've hired some bikes from Centre Parks. We're coming out of our lodge on the Wednesday. Myself on a bike, 3-year-old in a seat on the back. Mrs. coming behind, about 20 meters behind. We've only gone like 30 meters out of the lodge. I hear a crash behind me.
No.
So I quickly stopped the bike, looked over. My wife is laying prone, not moving, on the floor with blood pouring out of her head.
You are kidding me.
So she is unconscious. I have tried to stem my panic, especially with the little one being there. Went over to her. She wasn't moving.
Oh, my God.
She probably won't mind me saying this. She started snoring, which I guess was a good sign that she was breathing. I guess snoring means your airway's blocked, though, I guess. So that was not ideal, but she was breathing. So I was kind of, I didn't really know what to do. I've led a sheltered life, so I've never been around any kind of major accident for myself or I guess I've had a few prangs off a bike, but I've never been around someone else being...
It's really difficult with a head injury because...
And knowing what to do. I didn't know what to do.
Even the people that know what to do, it's like, do you move them? Do you stem the flow of blood? What? Yeah. You have to kind of move them to do it. It's like, what the hell do you do? What did you do?
So fortunately, there was someone in another lodge had heard the crash and had actually come running out.
Wow.
So there was actually 2 couples in that lodge. And because the other thing was we were on our way to meet our friends from the lodge to do a creepy crawly bug hunt for the little ones. They'd gone ahead early because they didn't have bikes. And then we left 5 minutes later. So they were already down there waiting for us. So they weren't there. But fortunately, those other people came out of their chalet, their lodge. And one of the women there, or two of the women, big thanks. I didn't catch their names, unfortunately. Otherwise, I'll give them a shout out on this pod now. Thank you. I doubt they listen to Talking Joe. But
you never
anyway,
know. You never know.
They took my daughter to the side of the road to kind of distract her and talk about bugs and what she'd been doing on holiday, which was really nice. And the guys, one of them got some towels to put under my wife's head because she'd now come round.
Oh, wow.
And basically was just saying, what happened? And I said, you came off your bike. She didn't remember anything. She said, where were we going?
Wow.
I was like, what do you remember? Do you remember leaving the house? No. Do you remember breakfast this morning? No. She had no memory. And then every 30 seconds, she'd say, what happened? She'd even had a 30-second loop of no memory. So one of the people who came to help us, their mother was there, and she called the park services or park, emergency services. 2 nurses arrived, did some, obviously checks, whatever, and they put like a tent round her. Someone called an ambulance. The ambulance never came because it got diverted somewhere else.
Nice.
And they determined that we rolled her because we thought her collarbone was broken to start with, but we had to cut her backpack off, rolled her onto her back. She was very cool about it at the time. She was like, oh yeah, do whatever you need to do, la la la. But I think that was the shock and the adrenaline. She won't mind, but I'll post up a picture on the social media. And she basically had stitches in her forehead, a black eye, split lip.
God.
She broke 2 teeth, numerous cuts and grazes.
Your poor wife.
Took the skin off her shoulder. Knee is pretty badly damaged. And they took her down to the medical centre. All this time she was, couldn't remember anything. I took my daughter back up to our lodge just so she wasn't around it. And then about 45 minutes later, they had moved her to the medical centre on site. So I went down to the medical centre. The first sign that I thought, okay, she's feeling better was I said to her, what do you remember? Expecting her to say, I don't remember anything. And she said, well, I remember we were late and you were faffing around when we were trying to leave the lodge. And I thought, okay, yeah, she's better. She's a bit more with it now. Then because the ambulance wasn't coming, our friend who was staying with us had to drive her to the hospital, and her dad met her there. So then our friends came back, and it wasn't until about 9 p.m. The accident happened at 1 p.m. It wasn't until about 9 p.m. that she managed to get her stitches. She had to wait for a special facial stitch doctor to do the stitches.
Blimey.
She had to have a CT scan to make sure there was no skull fracture, which fortunately there wasn't. And then she actually got discharged. Well, she didn't get discharged. She left the hospital herself because she couldn't be bothered to wait any longer. Yeah. She's a nurse herself. So once she heard the CT scan was fine, she had the stitches, she waited an hour to get discharged, but no one came. So she snuck out the door, went back to her parents' house and stayed overnight, then came back to the park the following day. Now, the kind of twist in the tale is, and she's been off work and, it has been to the dentist, and it's going to be, probably £1,000 to get her teeth fixed. And she's still kind of suffering some. She's been, over the last couple of days, been very kind of scatty and forgetting things. And I think that's the remnants of the concussion, hopefully nothing more. Well, the CT scan was clear. But the kind of twist in the tale was, one of the people that helped us was a bike mechanic, and he had a look at the bike just off chance. He said, I'll have a look at the bike. The chain was off, and he suspected that the bike had worn parts that needed replacing.
Wow.
So now we're in the situation where, how do we progress in terms of seeking compensation from Centre Parks if indeed, as we suspect, the bike was faulty? Because it was, and it's not just the physical injury she sustained, it's also emotional trauma, because for everyone, for the three of us, because I was panicking massively but trying to hold it in at the time, and I was a bit of a wreck. Then my wife, 3 days after, my 3-year-old wouldn't go to my wife because she was scared of her because of the way she looked.
Blimey.
So that made my wife very low.
Yeah, I can imagine. And
then it kind of turned out yesterday, we found out that our daughter, when we've been asking her, about it, not too heavily, she seemed okay with the actual accident. But yesterday, she mentioned that she was very worried at the time, and when I don't remember this, but when I stopped my bike, I took her out of the back seat and I went over to my wife. She was actually wrestling with the decision of, what do I do? Do I stay with the bike? Do I go to Daddy? And it was playing on her mind massively about making the right decision at that time. Then she ended up coming to me, and then she was saying, who's that on the floor? And I had said, it's Mummy. And she was like, what's that coming out of her head? And it was blood. And at that point, she got distracted by these other ladies who came to help. But I think it's been playing on her mind quite a lot. So, that could be, child PTSD or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I don't know. It was that other side of not just physical injury. So I don't know I've asked a few people about how we should proceed, whatever. So I've got a kind of idea about what we're going to do, but I'm not blaming anyone at this point. But I suspect the bike was faulty. When we went to leave the park on the Friday, I went to the park guest services and said, look, can I look at the bike? I want to inspect it and take some photos. And they refused me access to the bike.
Wow.
And basically said, if you want to look at the bike, you have to go through our legal team. So that stinks a cover up straight away. But I guess if the bike was faulty, they're never going to put their hand up and say, yes, it's faulty, because that would open them up to every wanting to make a claim. But I guess they would just settle or, do a gesture of goodwill or something like that. But, I'm not out to get anyone. I'm not a money grabber. I don't want to, all I want is a fair compensation if the bike was faulty for the damages that the family's incurred.
Absolutely, yeah. No, I don't see a problem.
Fair shake.
I don't see a problem with that at all, mate. I do think you should proceed with legal, because especially if they're trying to say, no, you can't see the bike because we're currently fixing it. And we don't want you to see what we're going to do to it. Yeah.
And the guy who inspected the bike, he actually wrote me a little statement as well.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, so you've got some kind of proof of the whole situation then, which is good.
Yeah. So there you go. That's my week.
Blimey, I feel terrible now. Do we have to do this? Do we have to do this?
Yeah, we were cracking on. It was a really good holiday, and even she came back the next day and she was like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I've ruined the holiday."
Aww.
I was like, "Well, she wants to go back again." So,
poor
and
thing.
her credit to her, and this is a massive credit to our kid, which is mainly a credit to us because we've raised her.
Of course.
But no, credit to her. She actually, one of the things that concerned her is a 3-year-old. She wanted the bike fixed so that no other mummies would crash. So
that's adorable. Yeah,
and that's kind of what my wife wants. And she just keeps thinking in her head, what if it was my bike with Evelyn on the back that crashed?
Yeah.
So always she was wearing a helmet, and that probably saved her life. So if you're riding a bike and not wearing a helmet, you're a fool. If you're a parent and you let your kids ride without a helmet, shame on you.
So she was wearing a helmet. Oh, your wife was wearing a helmet, and
all of us were, yeah.
And she still split her head open.
She still went unconscious, split her head open. Yeah.
Blimey. Okay, wow. I'm wearing a helmet now. I'm wearing a helmet for this recording, just in case. I'm going to put that Lightfoot helmet on.
It's pretty explosive, talking Joe.
Anyway, comics,
there we
right?
Go. Well, no, before we go comics, we've got to do a quick Game of Thrones recap, which I have been doing with Ben for the last... there you go. For the last, I think, 4 or 5. He's bang into it. I'm so into it. My wife is into it. And if you get a Game of Thrones recap, that means you get a chief doing a fairly crappy Game of Thrones rap, which I forgot about, so I just constructed in the last 20 minutes while I was giving my daughter a bath. So here we go. Let's see how it goes. Y'all know me. I don't watch TV, but I just did a catch-up with GOT. Fools getting smoked in Westeros. Burned up by a dragon. Man, that's gross. The Mountain and the Hound had a big throwdown. Cersei's buried under rubble. She ain't wearing no crown. Jon Snow straight up murdered his lover Dany. Bran is on the throne. Might as well be my granny. Mic drop. There you go.
Amazing. Good recap.
Last ever Game of Thrones rap. So, yes, I don't know if you are a fan of the show or not.
I used to be. I watched the first, I want to say 3 seasons, and then just kind of missed a few. I think it was kind of in the time of kind of coming out to the US, actually. I was kind of in between countries. And as I kind of made that travel, I missed a couple of episodes and then never picked it up again. And to be honest, I kind of got a little bit bored of it. There was a couple of episodes that just really did nothing for me, and then all of a sudden, I just kind of fell off the train, really fell off the wagon. But I've been hearing, all the spoilers and all that kind of stuff. It doesn't really bother me at all. So.
Okay, that was going to be my next question. I'm going to spoil it. So but me and my missus watched it since when it was coming out. I think after season 6, I quit because I was just like, get to the end already. I'm bored now. I like linear stuff that happens fairly quickly. Yeah, I don't like to be dragged out. And I was just like, just get to the end. I'm bored.
I know. How long can winter be coming? Seriously.
Yeah. So we decided to do a recap and. A rewatch, of all the episodes from season 1. And when I started rewatching it, I was like, oh yeah, this is not too bad. And again, those first seasons, and after kind of season 4, again, I started, or maybe 5, I started feeling it was dragging. And we actually managed to catch up. I think we finished, because obviously the final episode came out this Monday just gone.
Yeah.
we finished our catch-up on the Sunday the day before. We managed to get to Season 8, Episode 5, the day before the final episode came out.
Nice.
Which was good. So we timed it just right. But yeah, so I had questions primed for Ben. So I'm not expecting you to answer these because obviously you're not up to speed. But I'm just going to ask the questions anyway. And
go for
people
it.
listening to the pod
I'll make it up.
can answer for us. Okay. Where did the Night King come from?
McDonald's.
Yes. Because I think the children, there's some weird children, alien things who created the White Walkers, but it's never explained where their leader came from. But McDonald's is the right answer, I think.
Correct, yes.
Overall, they made a big deal about Jon Snow, his true heritage being Aegon or Eberron or some stupid name, Targaryen, and that was going to be a big deal. But in the end, that actually meant nothing. His heritage meant zero because he just stepped away or whatever.
Yep.
Is that good or bad?
Bud. Or Gad.
Yes.
It's Gad.
Yes, it is correct. Why didn't Grey Worm kill Jon Snow?
That has something to do with compensating for a small worm.
Could be the correct answer. And why not? Why didn't those idiots in the Lords and Ladies at the end? Why didn't they elect Jon Snow or Aegon Targaryen as the rightful king? Why didn't they elect him? Doesn't make any sense.
Because they're idiots.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that concludes Game of Thrones on Talking Joe.
Dun, 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 dun.
There you go. Now we talk comics.
All right.
So, on this episode, we will be doing 72 to 76.
Brilliant.
Which is the Cobra Civil War story arc.
Dun, dun, dun.
Quickly, what we like to do here is I'll just run through the covers. I don't know if you've got them.
I have.
Okay, so issue 72,
Absolute
Stiletto.
Beauty.
What is this vehicle called?
This is the Desert Fox.
Desert Fox. Is that Skidmark driving?
Well, for the US, it is definitely Skidmark, and for the UK, it is Treadmark. But yes, it is Skidmark in the United States, with Windmill in the passenger seat and Tunnel Rat behind them, with the pig just gunning it.
This is why we had you on the show. I knew none of that. Well, I knew who. I didn't know Skidmark was also Treadmark. So yeah. You've proved your worth already. Checks in the post.
Brilliant.
Not really.
Oh.
So yeah, good cover. I like this cover.
It's an absolute beauty. The Desert Fox was one of my favourite vehicles as a kid. Like, I absolutely adored it.
Did you have it?
Oh yeah, it kind of took over from my Ore Striker as like the vehicle I loved the most, like, you know, kind of playing with the most and everything. And for that I have got this real close affiliation to Treadmark / Skidmark, even though they gave him a really hilarious name in the US. We changed it because of the fact of the connotation of it being a mark, basically.
In your drawers, yeah.
Exactly.
I didn't know that. Cool. And toy wise, I think I'd kind of. Well, I'd stopped collecting vehicles at that point. So a lot of the vehicles from now on, I didn't have any of. So nice to hear of someone who did have them. 73, called Divided We Call. Another cool cover. You've got, is that Lieutenant Falcon, Gung Ho? Tunnel Rat, and who's that in the back?
Sneak Peek.
Yeah,
with his massive periscope, they call it. What made me laugh in this one is that they're kind of like they're kind of crushed into those little one-man pods on the Mamba.
Brilliant,
because they're trying to infiltrate Cobra. We'll get to that in a little while. But I love the fact that he's still got that massive periscope. So it would have been like 4 people in a one-man pod.
And where did that Mamba come from? Was that a stolen one?
It's from like a previous issue, I believe.
I think, is it from the yearbook where yearbook 4?
They steal it in one of the previous issues. I'm not sure which one it is, but yeah, they even mention it when they actually go through the plan of, infiltrating Cobra Island. They even mention, we stole that, and I think it says, from this issue, which we'll get to soon.
Issue 74. This is Alliance of Convenience. Another great cover.
Yeah.
So you got Hawk face palming Destro, Baroness in the background, and then Serpentor with Cobra Commander's hand, Fred VII's hands around his throat.
Yep. It's a cute cover.
75. This is quite a sort of famous one, I guess. Iconic cover. His tanks, Serpentor hunched over, looking mean, with the Baroness strapped to the front. And this was also, I believe, this was the cover to a UK holiday special, possibly?
Correct. It was. This was the first time I was made aware of the Cobra Civil War story. I didn't read the G.I. Joe comics as they came out because they weren't, that was just something that wasn't in the United Kingdom at the time. But
Yep.
we got, I think it was 91, I kind of worked out. We got this holiday special. It would have been in the summer sometime, I believe. And I remember just absolutely loving this issue. And it was the same issue as well. It was issue 75, the contents of as well. And there was one thing that always stays with me. And I'll see if I can get a picture of it so that you can throw it up on the socials. But it was the image of Cobra Island, which is kind of like a map of Cobra Island, which is in the back of this holiday special, which explained where all of the attacks were coming from, kind of gave you like a nice topographical view of the island and its kind of different elements and things, placements of different areas on that island. And I just like pored over that as a kid. I was just absolutely just loved that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. It's actually in the back of a couple of issues. It's definitely in the back of issue 74, might even be 75 as well. But yeah, like you say, really cool. And it's got like you say, the breakdown of the teams, both for G.I. Joe, but then it also has it's called Cobra Schism. Yeah. So then you've got Serpentor with his Dr. Mindbender for operations, Baroness's operations for Cobra Commander, etc.
It's great, isn't it? I loved that. I loved all of that kind of stuff, like kind of almost, because when we were kids, we would, myself and a lot of friends in the area, we were all kind of like Action Force, collectors and fans and stuff. And we would kind of play Action Force, we'd dress up in all our army gear. We'd go down to the cliffs where there was a barracks, like an old kind of like dilapidated barracks, and we would play on this basic, effectively this like death trap of a barracks, but we would love it, and we would play Action Force and stuff, and we would use these like these maps and these other things. Like the fan club had like it was a fold out pack that you'd like for Action Force fan club from 87, and there was like a map in there. Then we'd always use that as like that was like our little kind of map for when we would play Action Force. And it was just so much fun, and like that,
cool.
Those kind of things, yeah. And obviously it's the same kind of thing with this map here.
Yeah, and then finally we got issue 76, which is called All's Fair. Brilliant. And you got kind of Joe's triumphant. So you got Roadblock, Flint, and Hawk kind of standing atop like is it a Cobra bunker? Is that is it? It looks a tank or something. It looks, something with some Cobra insignia on.
It is the actual. It's probably just a gun emplacement, but that gun in the background with like the holes through it just looks like the Mauler tank gun, doesn't it? So it could be. It does.
Looks like the turret on the smaller. Yeah.
Yeah.
These issues all written by Larry Harmer. You've got Ron Wagner and Marshall Rogers pictures in for a couple of issues, penciling, and then you've got a mixture of inkers, colorists, and letterers. So. The basis for this arc then is 72 is kind of a prologue. So it's two parts here. The Joes have developed some kind of, it's called like a receiver decoder data link, which can read signals from spy satellites.
The black box.
The black box, exactly. And over on Cobra Island, Mindbender's been tinkering around, and he's created a Star Viper and wants to infiltrate this guy into the pit to steal it effectively.
I love the little cute things when Dr. Mindbender and Serpentor and the Bats, they're in that kind of laboratory, and they've got the Star Viper on the deck and everything, and Serpentor's kind of like, you got these flies around you in this room, like why can't you sort that out? And I love it that it's just really just to show that the Star Viper's got these amazing reflexes, and he just sits there and goes, and just kind of like catches them all out of the sky.
It's kind of Mr. Miyagi with the chopsticks, but sans chopsticks.
Yeah,
that's quality. You also get a bit here of, how do you feel about we're seeing more of the Fred VII Baroness romantic connection, if you will, because there's a few bits where he's taking her glasses off,
and you see the reflection of them kissing.
You see the reflections of them kissing. They're playing this up a lot now. I haven't read ahead too much, and I can't. I've read the whole run multiple times, but what I find quite fortunate is that my memory's quite spotty. So what it means is whenever I do rereads of stuff, I don't fully remember it. So a lot of it is kind of not new to me, but I forgot about that.
Yeah, same.
So I can't remember how that Baroness Fred VII thing actually ends up playing out in the end. But
it doesn't end well for Fred VII. Put it that way.
Okay. I think I remember that much. But yeah, so I don't know what was Harmer just trying to progress this, do you think, at the time, this kind of love thing?
I think he was just trying to make it more interesting, a little bit more, like a few more threads to kind of like intertwine to make the situation more complex, maybe, because obviously if Serpentor uses the Baroness later on, as we saw on the cover of 75, as like a human shield, there has to be a reason for him not to there has to be a reason for Cobra Commander not to want to we'll just attack him anyway. Who cares?
Well, I think there's actually a line in it. We might come to it while I'm flicking through. I think there's a line from Zartan where he actually says, "Doesn't Serpentor know that strapping the Baroness to the front isn't going to stop him firing?"
Yeah.
So maybe Fred's just like, I'll just womanize and try and win the war and do whatever I can.
He doesn't really care for her because at one point he drops her like a stone. Like he doesn't, he just doesn't care too much.
Yeah.
In that sense, I think it's all just him trying to get maybe like get into a more powerful position, because the Baroness, obviously she has the information, the intel, the expertise. So it's probably more to do with that.
Yeah, and so the upshot of the Star Viper infiltrating is he does get out with the black box. Some really nice kind of action scenes where they realise he's got out. Chase scenes. This is where you get your skid/tread mark. And who's the dude who always breaks stuff? Love that guy.
Oh, that's the wild card driver. Wild card, the mean dog driver. Yeah.
Dog. Oh, I love it. He's just breaking everything he touches, breaking pens, breaking
door handles,
flipboards, door handles. Amazing. Just Harmer had such a way of putting tiny little subtle humorous bits in without them feeling out of place.
It's almost like the kind of brute force version of Tripwire, who was always very clumsy, but then obviously he had to like be very careful when it comes to bomb disposal and everything like that.
Yeah, it's good because I'm a big fan of Tripwire, so that's a good comparison. Actually, yeah, I'm flicking through now, and you also get, we said Baroness and Fred VII smooching. Also, the Star Viper kind of intrudes on Lady J and Flint getting it on.
Yeah, so. I do like the way that, because obviously there's how does Cobra infiltrate the pits, because they've always had this problem where they either just attack it en masse, or they infiltrate, like using Zartan. He got in there earlier, didn't he? So in this case, it was like, well, how do we do it this time? And obviously this Star Viper, who's effectively like superhuman to like, almost like a, crazy degree. He hitches a ride on the Desert Fox 6-wheel drive, which they're unaware of. They just see a guy hitchhiking, and then all of a sudden he must, I don't even know how he does it, but he somehow jumps underneath this car and holds on. Yeah. And then when they get to the pit, he drops off and sneaks in while Spirit's taking the new guys through the pit, and then kind of hides away. And then obviously, like you say, the Star Viper kind of bides his time. What I find interesting here is that Spirit still, like, he still notices there's a problem. There's a funny smell. There's something not right. And that kind of disappears somehow. So the Star Viper's got this ability also to hide his scent, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. I don't think he's really used in much capacity again after this, brief appearance.
No, I just think there's a few Star Brigade issues, I think, where, but again, not as a kind of named character. It's more of they're flying their stiletto or whatever. Yeah. I've
got an interest in the midway through, or towards the end of this issue, where he's about to escape in the stiletto, which is in the back of the 18-wheeler. I got I don't know if you're a fan of superhero comics or not. There's an advert in this issue for the Avengers, in fact, and it says they were Earth's mightiest heroes. Nothing lasts forever. The end begins in issue 291 by Walt Simonson, John Buscema, and Tom Palmer.
Wow.
Do you want to try and guess the lineup? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 Avengers.
Avengers back then.
1958.
Jesus. She-Hulk.
Yes.
Oh,
yes.
I knew I'd get one. In that case, Doctor Strange?
No, but you're on the right lines-ish.
Iron Fist?
No, it's a character who I haven't read this run of Avengers, and I know of this character, but I can't think I've ever read a comic with this character in. You're on the right lines. He's a doctor.
Not.
He's bold with a goatee.
Not.
I suspect most people have never heard of him.
Oh, goodness me. No, you're going to have to put me on my misery.
Dr. Druid.
Oh God, no, that's really obscure for me.
Yeah.
For me.
There's one big hitter.
Cap?
No.
Iron Man?
No.
Thor?
Yes.
Why didn't I go Thor first?
There's one guy who doesn't wear a shirt.
It's not Iron Fist.
No.
Doesn't wear a shirt. That could be that's Namor.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, I'm doing well.
There's another green female.
Oh, Gamora.
No. Also, I think she's a cousin of Namor or Namor, however you want to pronounce it. She's his cousin, I think.
No, you've lost me.
Namorita.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, I would never have got that.
2 more. You've got a guy who has got a helmet on
Oh, great.
and a sword.
Helmet and a sword. Ares?
No.
Oh,
His first name is a colour.
no.
The Black Knight.
Oh, okay. Damn it.
And you've got at the back, you have got a character in. She's had many different names. Her most famous name is probably the name of a very recent Marvel movie.
Oh, Captain Marvel.
It is Captain Marvel, but it's not Carol Danvers.
No. Oh my god, I'm failing massively here.
I know her name. She's also gone by the name of Photon, maybe.
Oh no, I'm never going to get it.
Something else is Monica Rambeau.
Oh yes, okay.
Anyway, there you go. That's your Avengers question.
I can't believe I got the first one right. I got She-Hulk, and then I was
without any clues,
and then just dropped the rest of them like a stone.
Right, back to Cobra Civil War. So now the Star Viper has escaped with the black box, and 2 things happen here. He returns to Cobra Island, expecting fanfare and awards and heroic responses, etc. And what he gets almost straight away is Cobra Commander Fred VII and Serpentor both wanting the black box, and then that just descending into they don't care about the black box. They're just slinging insults at each other.
Yeah.
And literally 3 pages later, war has broken out.
It's crazy. I mean, that's how easy war starts.
I really like the fact that Harmer didn't feel the need to drag out the start of the war over a protracted amount of pages.
Yeah.
It's literally, I'm looking at a page where Serpentor's poking at him and saying loser, Fred VII's saying has been, and then a bit more arguing. He calls him Buckethead.
Lols.
Flick forward 3 pages, and Serpentor and Mindbender and the Bats are just running away from explosions and battles that night on Cobra Island. Oh, it's amazing.
It's great. I mean, I think obviously Larry had been sowing the seeds for a while with the kind of clash of personalities with Serpentor and Cobra and Fred. So it's almost like you don't need to go into too much detail as to how much these guys hate each other.
Interestingly, Ben had kind of picked up that we hadn't seen much of Serpentor since he came in 49. He'd been there occasionally, and me rereading them now, I kind of realised I thought he was a mainstay pretty much in most issues from 49 upwards, but he's actually not in it that much.
No, just a bit of background every now and again as well.
Just a bit of background every now and again, and this is the storyline where he kind of comes to prominence and also meets his demise. So he doesn't, and I never really watched the animated show that much, but maybe he featured a lot heavier in that.
Well, funnily enough, most of the episodes we got from the Sunbow to like the V8 in the VHS in the UK had Serpentor in them, including Arise Serpentor Arise.
Sergeant Slammer is mine. This I command.
Yes.
So he was massive for that period of time in the Sunbow show that he was kind of in the film Arise Serpentor Arise. He was in multiple episodes. He was kind of like, I don't know, that people love him or hate him. I think they do like the thought of Serpentor, but I think his kind of over exaggerated ways and the way he talks and the way he kind of conducts himself, I think a lot of people kind of a bit put off by it, because that a lot of the G.I. Joe guys, they seem to be very kind of hardcore military, and they like that element of it, and that's one of the reasons why they love the comics so much.
Yep.
But obviously for those that grew up with the cartoon and as well, like myself and the Action Force comics and stuff like that, but I don't know, I'm more drawn to the kind of sci-fi fantasy element of it than the versus the military. So I think you either love him or hate him with Serpentor.
I think when I was reading the comics at a much younger age, I didn't really like him, and I have seen a couple of Rise of Serpentor Rise and a few of the other ones, and I was like, nah, he's a bit too hokey, not really my bag. But now I love him. I think he's fantastic.
Yeah.
Especially, all the military leaders in his head, and vying for control and giving him advice and stuff. I think he's really cool. Again,
a very interesting, complex character.
Yeah. Yes, very much so. But obviously he come out and said that he wished he hadn't killed Cobra Commander, or hadn't bowed to Hasbro's demands to kill off Cobra Commander. And so maybe he was like, I'm going to get back at him by offing Serpentor. Yeah. Or I don't know what the deal was of why he killed him, but
it could be, like Larry can be like that a little bit. You can be like, well, you're going to screw me over, I'll screw you over.
yeah. And so now we've got this civil war erupting. the Joes get involved because they're kind of advised to send a recon team in just to get the lay of the land and find out what's actually going on.
Yeah, and the team they assemble is pretty awesome as well. I love this scene of the Tomahawk coming in to the flag. They land, and then Hawk jumps off in his usual garb but without his helmet or hat, which something's going to come up later on that I'm going to have to question you about.
This is probably Marshall Rogers when he redraws Hawk in a different outfit, I imagine.
Well, we'll speak about that in a sec. Yeah. But this lineup is just brilliant, and I love that they always seem to do this in this A Real American Hero comic, and it was like, okay, we've got this new group of guys that we need to, like, this is the team, and they'd all be lined up, and they'd go through them like name by name and everything.
Yeah, we had a special missions we covered on the previous episode where it was they were all lined up in an aircraft, and they're all checking the guy in front, name checking each one. So it gives you, it's a nice way to do a roll call.
It's really good, yeah. And then on this one, obviously, Hawk's explaining to Flag what the situation is, and he's got Flint, Lady J, and Mainframe who are going to be the kind of stay on board kind of operations team.
I think Flag's dead, by the way.
Not Flag, Admiral Keelhaul. Is what I meant to say. Yeah. They're on the Flag. And it's Admiral Keelhaul. Yeah. Sorry, I was being...
No, you're good.
And then obviously you've got Dial Tone, Tunnel Rat, Spirit, Sneak Peek, and Gung Ho, who are going to be the infiltration team.
Yes. They're actually, infiltration. And I'm looking at that little table of organisation in the back, and they're actually deemed as S2 Intelligence Recon Team.
Brilliant.
Yeah. And we won't go into them, but we've also got the Sea Transport Support Team, the S3 Operations Team, the Air Transport and Support Team, the Mechanised Assault and Combined Aviation Team, the Weapons and Field HQ team, the security team, the motorized recon team, which is only 2 people, and the engineer team, EOD and demolitions.
It's amazing the level of detail Larry went into when doing these kind of plans for what would actually happen to, what would you need to infiltrate this island. And I love all the way through this little arc. I love the fact that there's so much strategy going on and so much kind of military kind of lingo and all that kind of stuff. It's all very interesting because it makes you think about stuff that you would never in your life dream about, like, protecting certain flanks, but we don't have to worry about that flank because, the ground is hostile. You can't really, cover any ground. You'd only need like 3 or 4 troops over there. It turns out that isn't the case, but
no,
there's loads of cool little bits of information about how things are progressing militarily, and I love that.
Yep. Who do you, from a Cobra side, who wins each one of these? So we've got Serpentor, whose headquarters is at the landlocked freighter, which obviously rose out of the seabed from whatever it was, issue 40, 41, I think. Cobra Commander, whose headquarters is at Cobra HQ building. So operations, Serpentor has Dr. Mindbender and Cobra Commander has the Baroness. Who wins that?
Well, without, obviously, we kind of know...
Who would you rather... Okay, who would you rather have?
In my head, before this kicks off, I think I'd rather have the Baroness, over a dentist.
Yeah. Security, Serpentor's got Grokmaster, who I think had appeared in a yearbook story, and obviously kind of makes more of an appearance here. Grokmaster for Serpentor, or Zartan and family for Cobra Commander. So you've got to take numbers there, surely.
Yeah, I think I'd go for Zartan. As difficult as the Dreadnoks are to deal with.
Well, you say Dreadnoks, but it's just Zartan and family.
Oh, okay, so just Zorana and Xandar.
Yeah, so actually not as many as I thought originally as well. So then shock troops. Serpentor has got the Evil Twins and the Crimson Guard, and Cobra Commander has got the Dreadnoks.
Oh, Crimson Guard.
Seems like a mismatch in numbers there.
Yeah.
But Crimson Guard are with Serpentor. Then he's also got Scrap Iron, who hasn't been seen since killing the Softmaster and Candy.
Yeah,
I don't think. He's just on his own with no designation. Then Serpentor also has Batbots, in brackets, cannon fodder.
Yeah.
He has the Rattlers as his air arm.
Yeah.
And his tanks as his armor.
Yeah.
And then Cobra Commander has the Vipers, the Techno Vipers, the Tele Vipers, the Mambas, the Worms, and the Bugs.
That's an interesting split as well, isn't it? Because, air superiority-wise, that sounds like the Rattlers would have the edge.
Yeah.
Although, would the Mambas be more manoeuvrable? It's hard to say in that situation, isn't it? I suppose you've got...
Yeah. I don't know where the Fangs do crop up here, but I can't remember which side they're on.
I think they're on the Mambas. No, it's Rattlers and Fangs, isn't it? Rattlers and Fangs versus Mambas. And then, the Bugs are pretty cool because they can go underwater and are hard to see, and they can come out of nowhere, and they've got all those different pods that, shoot out and all that kind of stuff. So
Did you have the Bug at all?
I didn't have the Bug as a kid, no. It was towards, I think we got that in like 90, 91. So I wasn't out of collecting by then, by no means, but I don't think it was an easy one to find.
No, it's probably quite pricey as well, I imagine. And the worms, did we get the worms over here?
My buddy got the maggot, yeah, and he got worms with the maggot.
Oh, sorry, yes. The worm is the pilot, isn't it?
Yeah, the driver or the officer.
Sorry.
And then the
maggot it's like a big kind of fixed turret tank kind of thing.
It's great. It's like it splits into 3 different sections. So yeah,
Does it?
The turret comes off and has got 4 legs, and that becomes like a standalone gun.
Wicked.
Like an anti-aircraft gun. You've got like a middle section and then a front section, and it's like they were going nuts about with these. Like they had the mean dog like split into the similar kind of sections.
Yes.
They did love that modular vehicle in the G.I. Joe world, and so do I. I think it's a brilliant kind of thing. And yeah, my buddy had that down the road, and I was so... One of the things I didn't get stuff was because like a friend would have it, so you kind of like take all your toys and, you know, play together in like a garden or something. And my buddy down one end of the street had the Matt and Dean Bales. They had the worms and the maggot, and then my other buddy, like the other side of the street, had the Tomahawk. So because they had those vehicles, I felt like I played with them enough that I didn't get them as a kid.
Right. Okay, yeah.
But like they're two of the best vehicles, and I was so gutted that I didn't have them. But yeah, so anyway,
cool. Yeah, so I think the troops are fairly evenly split. I guess Crimson Guard on one side, Vipers on the other. Sort of ground troops is probably about even. But yeah, other cool bits that I kind of like. Well, there's a lot going on here. So like you say, that infiltration team, they end up hooking up with Captain Nim, don't they? Min.
Yeah.
Captain
Min.
Min.
Really hard to pronounce.
Minh. Yeah. And he kind of gets them through the swamps and the tunnels, whatever, to get to the control tower on the airfield, which is obviously a key point to hold.
I love how much focus the infiltration or the recon team get, because you've got like Sneak Peek using his periscope every 5 minutes to get intel, and I always thought that him as a character, he was always overlooked because he was a little bit goofy looking. The figure was a bit chubby. It wasn't like, you know, the coolest figure in the world. But I thought that Larry did a great job of showing how important this particular team is for comms, for tracking, for recon, you know, for leadership. Like Falcon is so good at what he does for this team. Like they go through the entire storyline undetected. Do you know what I mean? Like they're just brilliant at what they do.
And you believe they're a unit that's been together for X amount of time.
Big time.
Yeah, and not, you know, just thrown together. But really cool stuff. And they actually spot Destro coming onto the beach, don't they? Because Destro's got a cruise liner parked out just offshore. Cool bits there where he's drilling. He's got his drill, well, not him, but he's just chilling out, sipping on a martini or something, or a cocktail. And he's got his drill instructor drilling the Iron Grenadiers on the ship. They just roll out. They roll the armor out en force, en masse, up onto the beach. So now you've got another element coming in.
Before that happened, something else I really liked seeing. Farstraw. It's like there's another character who, you know, criminally underused in the comics, in my opinion. He's only had one appearance in the Action Force comics, but he had this amazing like scene where he just like blows up a ton of Cobra, I think maggots again, Cobra maggots, and like you just see him go, I'll take him out, takes him out, and Sci-Fi being involved there. Like I get the feeling in this one that, you know, you got Maverick, Battle Force 2000, he's kind of like helping the air, helping them land with his
is the Vector,
and so like they're really trying to force in as many characters as possible. And like you say, with Destro and the Iron Grenadiers turning up, you've got all the different vehicles on show. You've got the AGP, you've got the spoiler and all that kind of stuff. You've got like everything's being thrown in, like every single vehicle you can think of is being thrown in there.
And I think one of the key master strokes that Larry's done here is there's been a few issues where it's been obvious that it's a toy tie-in, and you're like, oh, it's just product placement. But even though all the stuff you've mentioned there, even though it's all in all these issues, it didn't feel like, oh, they're trying to sell me that toy. They're trying to sell me that figure. It didn't feel like that. And I think that's probably the epic scope of the storyline. I just felt, it needed all those different vehicles. It needed all those characters. So kudos to all involved there, because, you know, it probably did go and sell a few toys for him, but I don't feel like it was the draw or anything.
They even squeeze in the Ore Striker again in Crankcase. You know, like they're going. He's going back to the well, and he's pulling out all of these characters and all of these vehicles, and it's it's fun to watch and read when you're a kid, and you're identifying these things, and you're going, oh, that's that, I know that, and I know that, and I know that, and you're just kind of like getting really excited as you read it.
Yeah. Now, Hawk gets snatched up.
This is hilarious, man.
Hawk gets Cobra Commanders with the Dreadnoks and the Thunder Machine. I can't remember why, but they see Hawk in the field of battle, snatch him up, and this is kind of paralleled with Baroness now strapped to the front of Serpentor's Hiss. And yeah, then this following issue is now drawn by Marshall Rogers, and he's not got the memo that Hawk is not wearing all green.
What is I just find that hilarious that there's this massive switch all of a sudden, and then it's completely different General Hawk. It's like as you were playing as a kid, like you managed to break your General Hawk in the middle of a play, and then you just switched out for the older one, and it's just like, what? And it's so dramatically different that it makes such a, it's so obvious that it's not the right Hawk. Yeah. And the funny thing is, I only knew of issue 75 in the holiday special, so I'd only read it as Hawk wearing this gear. So when I came to read it, I'm like, it didn't dawn on me initially. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I just saw that Hawk was in it, and I thought I didn't realize he was in this. And then I thought, oh, hang on, because I think in my head I just replaced him with Duke for that particular that particular scene. And
then you're like, Ron Wagner, what are you doing drawing Hawk wrong? He's supposed to be in green in this issue.
Oh, as well, I just want to shout out Ron. I've met him a couple of times at Assembly Required in Iowa. And he is the loveliest guy in the world. And he did the most amazing hit and run print for their last show. And I dressed up as Tiger Force Hit and Run, so he got a big kick out of that. But again, like this issue's brilliant, and again shows that recon team kind of viewing everything from the tower. They've even every order they were given, they achieved that mission no matter how difficult it was, and that's what I can't get over how good they are. That particular team.
Yeah, they're amazing. I'm just flicking through here, and quality bit good visual of Destro. He's got an actual sword in a scabbard on his hip.
Totally cool.
He never uses it, but I mean, what's a great look. Red cape, sword in a scabbard.
He does take his sword out towards the end of that issue as well, like, and he's just walking down the corridor with his sword out. It's like, why?
Just in case. Hawk's managed to get away. He's not managed to find his change of clothes yet, though. And this is where G.I. Joe are now on Serpentor's side, because Mindbender's gone to Washington to cut a deal with the US government and basically say, we need your support. Serpentor's the rightful ruler of this sovereign nation, or of Cobra Island. Lend us your aid, and reluctantly, kind of, the US government's agreed. So now G.I. Joe have been given orders to support Serpentor.
Yeah,
but they don't want to take orders. There's a cool bit where Cutter's here, and people are trying to tell him what to do, and he says, with all due respect, Mr. Serpentor, it just doesn't work like that. We are here in support and advisory capacity, and as such are subject to our own chain of command, and I am obligated to register an official complaint about the treatment of prisoners.
Brilliant.
And he's just shot down. Spare me. Will you do me a favour and have your captured asps open fire on Zartan's maggots? That I can arrange.
No, it's really cool, and I must admit, I do like like Larry kind of squeezing in military and like very kind of technical jargon into everything that he writes. It's brilliant. Yeah. Another thing I noticed as well is that during like an attack, one of the Joes, I can't for the life of me off the top of my head work out who it is, gets shot, and you see like he's saying, look, coming from the south. And they go, what's an and you go, because he obviously gets shot, and it's just like, I couldn't tell who it is, because it's just really, it's like in the corner of the shot, it's all black. I maybe airborne, possibly, I don't know.
Okay.
I'll have to do like a gun check and see who that is, because you can only see their weapon clearly.
Oh right, okay.
But yeah, again, like he's not like shying away from the people getting injured here either, or possibly even killed. But that's something you don't really know. You don't know if anyone has been killed on the Joe team. And
that's the other thing is, in a battle of this magnitude, then you would expect lots and lots of casualty or fatalities.
Yeah.
But the way Larry writes the action, and the way that Ron and Marshall Rogers draw the action, you kind of bypass it. You don't think, oh wait a minute, these guys should be dead. Oh wait a minute, why isn't he dead? It's very accepting of, this is how the story played out. no one died, and loads of people sustained injuries, and it's just really, I don't want to say believable, but it just it fits.
He writes it in a certain way, doesn't he? That makes it work. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just accepting that that's the way it played out, which is cool.
The guy that Roadblock carries, which is hilarious, is Crankcase when he gets blown out of his ore striker.
Yeah.
But this is a little bit further on from that.
Okay, gotcha. And then for the concluding part, we got Ron Wagner back on 76. A few bits here. This is where there's a BAT that's got a flashing beacon or something, and Mindbender says, "Oh, this one's been oddly modified," and that's when they realise it's a secret TV transmitter that Baroness and Fred had been using to spy on the Serpentor camp, but they just blow it up.
Yeah, he just shoots it, doesn't he? It's cool.
The recon team escape through the sewers because the TV tower's now been taken over by Destro.
I love that they pour that crap down the storm drain.
Some gruel or something.
Yeah, and it's like, they call him Cookie, don't they? The cook.
Yeah,
and he's like, what are you,
Brilliant.
Gourmet or something? And they're all like, oh, I think it's like they're getting attacked by rats, aren't they? And he's like,
that's it.
It can't get much worse than this. And it's like, yeah, it can.
Yeah, it can. Slop just comes. Cobra commanders under the pump here. They're either side of the mountain now. The two forces to oppose Cobra and Cobra Commander's force and the Serpentor G.I. Joe force. The big volcano is in the way. Not the mountain, the volcano. And this is where there's actually a cool bit before I go on to it, where the Joes are kind of rolling out in the rolling thunder, etc. And on the roadside, the Crocmaster pops up and he goes, "Give that Cobra Commander one for me," shaking his fist at the Joes, as if sending them on their way. And this is where Zartan kind of just makes an executive decision to break off from Cobra Commander's troops with his compound bow and makes a difficult shot, as he says, but nowhere near as difficult as the one that took down the Hardmaster.
I love that Serpentor, as this arrow is heading towards him, is talking about, obviously one of his personalities, and he's talking about the Battle of Hastings. Yep. And the Saxon King Harold was laid low by an arrow just as it hits him in the eye, and it's just like, it's just really beautifully done, that from Larry.
Is it too on the nose, or is it perfect?
I personally think it's perfect, because I think a lot of Americans who are reading this at the time probably wouldn't have had much in the way of history of 1066 and what was happening in the UK at the time. Yep. So I just that's always been a story. 1066. You've always remembered that from history lessons in the UK. I have personally, and Harold Hardrada and all this kind of stuff, and then the Bayeux tapestry that's got the arrow in his eye and all that kind of stuff. So that was like almost two worlds converging for me. It was like my G.I. Joe and my the fun stuff I like over here, and then my dad was a big history buff, so on the other side there was all that kind of coming together, and I showed him and he was really impressed, and so
okay.
I thought that was really cool.
And as quickly as it had began in those 3 pages, it ends just as quickly. I mean, I don't know why Zartan didn't try that earlier.
Yeah,
maybe Serpentor just wasn't in range, or hadn't exposed himself.
But also, I think he was following orders to a degree, and I think he was getting frustrated with Cobra Commander, aka Fred, and was just like, I'm gonna finish this now.
He's another character, kind of Destro-ish, that in terms of he doesn't really want not follow the rules, but he's as long as it suits his purposes, he'll just go along with whatever's happening. And if there's something happens and he thinks we need to drastically change what we're doing, he's happy to do it. But and as quickly as that's happened, Serpentor's dead. Mindbender, little dirty scumbag weasel Mindbender's back on the scene, shaking hands with Fred VII to basically say, "Oh, I'm back on your side now." Amazing.
And this is one of the reasons why I'd probably choose the Baroness over him, even though it turns out that he's probably got the upper hand in a sense, the way he's done things. He just is not loyal, and he will go to whoever has got the stronger hand and all that kind of stuff. And he did a lot to actually get the Joes involved, and then he did a lot to end the war, and then he did a lot to kind of make it's preservation of self with Mindbender. And a lot of them are like that, but with the Baroness, I feel like you'd be probably in a more solid position. And if you took more of her advice, then I think you'd be okay in the battle. Yeah, and now Destro's there, and he says, "I'm happy to withdraw. All I want is the Baroness." Yeah, and he did nothing. Like, Destro's forces did absolutely nothing, and they're all just at one point they took a tea break down on the beach,
tell the men to have a rest, post double centuries, but tell them to have a rest and have some tea. He's sipping iced tea. Amazing. If you don't love Destro, there's something wrong with you.
If you don't want to be in the Iron Grenadiers, there's something wrong with you, because they're the only ones that come out of this with any kind of favour. Like it's amazing.
And you'll like this. The team that kind of got onto the island first and had a lot of page time and had the best kind of scenes, the recon intelligence team, they're actually on the last page of the issue. They don't really know what's been going on because they've been sneaking out, no pun intended, kind of unawares. And Gung Ho's like, down, it's Destro, he's coming back. And Destro spotted him and he said, you can come up and go home, it's over. And with that, it's over. Everyone retreats and the status quo's changed a little bit, well, a lot really, and looking forward to see what's coming up in the future issues.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, for me, this arc is like one of my favourites in the Real American Hero run, because as much as I like as much as we get long story arcs that go on for years and years in many cases, especially back in the day, not so much anymore. But, when you've got like a kind of almost self-contained 5 or 6 or 7 parter, or even fewer, I like it when it's, you get like almost like a conclusion, but life that goes on. So there's still like fallout to come after this. But, at the same time, we've had a nice little kind of, I don't know, like a burst of action and military jargon and tactics and strategy and reveals and shock and it's like that's what I kind of love about the G.I. Joe comics, and especially the smaller kind of bite-size little arcs, especially special missions. Yeah,
cool. So in the world of Talking Joe, whenever we do an arc, we need to rank it on the Every Joe Story Ever master list.
Cool.
Up to you whether you want to go back, reread issues and put in scores for issues prior to this, or if you want to rank just from now onwards, we're absolutely fine with that.
So I'll go back and rank.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. You'll find all the.
So issue 1. I'm kidding.
So for this one, for the Cobra Civil War storyline 72 to 76, shall I go first, or do you want to go first?
You go first, my man. It's your show.
So I'm going to give this a 9. I have several 9s already on my list. I'm not giving it a 10. Mainly on the basis that although Marshall Rogers did a bang up job on art, and I'm sure it was on short notice and he did really good, I felt that some of the colouring and inking perhaps let his issues down a little bit. It was a little bit, some of the colours were a little bit flat, because I'm still reading from the original floppies from 1988. I don't know if the recoloured versions, whether digital or IDW reprint trades, have probably recoloured them.
I've been looking on the digital aspect, and to kind of give you a heads up, you still see quite a big difference in between issues. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So that's the only thing I'm kind of marking it down on a little bit for that. But other than that, it probably had everything you could want from a G.I. Joe story.
For myself, I'd have to agree with a lot of that. I would give it a high score, and I'm probably going to go in a similar vein. I'm going to go with an 8.5.
Okay.
For the exact same reasons. For one, there's obviously a nostalgia connection with me, and this being one of the first, well, it wasn't one of the first issues I read, but this storyline, the first time I read it was that holiday special, and I've still got that original comic in my possession. It's ruined because I've just opened it and read it so many times and gone through it so many times and studied it that there's a real strong connection there. So when I found out there was more to it that surrounded that story and read it, I was like, this is brilliant. So
yes. And
then obviously the marks down do come with the exact same things. One of them, that change up to Hawk, as cute and funny as it is, it's like, so it just takes you out of the story quite dramatically.
Yeah.
And you kind of think, well, why have they done that so badly? And then obviously on top of that, like you say, the difference between art styles is quite jarring in that story arc. But other than that, it is brilliant, and I absolutely love it. So 8.5 for me.
Done. So all that leaves us to let everyone know is next week we will be doing issues 77 and 78 as a 2-issue arc. There's a bit of fallout from this Cobra Civil War storyline, but it then leads into at least 1.5 issues worth of a second story. And we'll also do special missions numbers 9 and 10. So that is your homework for next week, issues 77 and 78.
Wait.
From Real American Hero and Special Missions 9 and 10. As always, find us on Talking Joe Comics at gmail.com, Talking Joe Comics on Instagram, talking_Joe on Twitter. Let us know what you're thinking of the show. Any questions you've got, post them there. We've got Talking Joe, a G.I. Joe podcast on the Facebook group if you want to join. From a personal point of view, where can people go to find you, good sir?
The Full Force is available on Podbean, iTunes, Stitcher. We've got a Facebook page, we've got a Twitter account, and we've also we're on YouTube. And we have a Patreon page if you want to be even cooler and pay us money to do even cooler things. You'll get in on the... Well, if you get in on the Red Shadow Army tier, then you will be in part of the Full Force fan club, and you'll get a sticker and a badge and a letter, a thank you letter, which also has a very special surprise for people on there too. So all will be revealed if you join us on Patreon. If you just want to support us in general, of course, we absolutely just love any support by listening or checking us out. We adore all of it, and thank you guys for the current listeners and viewers. Thank you so much for your support so far.
Cool. So I guess I'll just close out with big thanks to Chris for coming in a pinch, helping out, and going forward. So we're probably about halfway through, I reckon, when you consider special missions, etc. So we've got at least another 25, 26 episodes of Talking Joe with Chief and Chris.
Whee!
And maybe when we're up to 500 listeners, we'll get Ben back on for a guest spot.
That'd be amazing.
Cool. With that in mind, we will catch you down the road.
Bye.